See, this is the whole thing about, you know, culture influences in our daily lives. As a professional, you will meet clients who are going through different stages of these 4 categories. In some areas, they say, okay, I'm going to separate from this and this and that. And yet there are pieces that they take in. There are pieces. And so it depends on your comfort zone, doesn't it? And you say, well, okay, there are areas that I think I can take it, you know, take bits and pieces, and then hopefully you live, right? Yeah, you have a...
Oh, I was going to say, you know, my son plays hockey, right?
Uh-huh.
And we're a black family. And when he's around people, after a while, I'm not exactly sure what the dominant culture really is. Because we all kind of, you know, when I meet the families, they're all so similar in many ways. And then, you know, you have people from different parts, you know, different areas that do play hockey, you know. So when we talk about dominant culture now, I'm not sure if it probably was more prominent when your family came, but now it's so diverse in Toronto. Like, I don't really know now when we say dominant what that really means.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And as we talk about, the society is changing constantly. Our lives are changing constantly. So this can never be say, this is it. But this is just give you an idea of at the particular time with this particular client and in their relationship with their family, and this is what's happening. And it is not carved on stone, and we all a little bit of this and a little bit of that in different areas of life. And this, yes, Penny.
I think as well, when you're a psychotherapist or you're doing psychotherapy, you also are in a different cultural way of thinking. And I live in a town, and I call it a small town. It's 37,000 people, 3,700 people. And I go to and I visit small communities that have about maybe 1,500 to 1,000 people in those communities. And we also have in our standards of practice is no dual relationships. Mm-hmm. So when you live in a small community and you do bump into people at the grocery store, or and they may start to talk to you about things, and they may be your client, you have to really maintain very strict boundaries, and sometimes that can come off as that you're being standoffish or that you think you're different than other people. It's interesting because the doctors in our community are very down to earth, and they don't have those same set of rules like that we have, and they interact, they intermingle with their client, like their patients at parties and different functions, and so it puts you in a different situation when you walk into that, especially too if you come from an academic culture too. You're coming into a different environment of where not everybody has been trained or thinks that way.
Isn't that real? I live in a city of 70,000, and my husband and I will go grocery shopping on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The reason is if we go on Friday to Saturday, and somebody said, oh, here's so-and-so, she's my counselor, you know, all that. And are you going to stop them from saying it or not, right? And one time I was going down the aisle, and somebody just stopped me and said, oh, yeah, we talk about that particular problem we had the last session. Well, I want to tell you the follow-up in the grocery store. So, I mean, it's great, but is that appropriate?
Not in the North American context, but if you are living in a high context community, yes, we have to ensure confidentiality. Above all, we have to talk about anonymity, because anonymity is a very big part of confidentiality. However, conversations happen in that kind of a community. So in the South Asian community in Brampton, where Brampton is referred to as Sing Town, S-I-N-G-H.
Yes.
And you are going to bump into just about every one of your clients, right? And how do you conduct yourself? So I usually lay it out in the beginning. I'm not going to acknowledge you, and that's for these reasons. But if you do approach me, I will talk to you. But if you start talking about stuff that other people shouldn't hear, I'll tell you to stop. And if you really want to talk, then you have to go find a corner somewhere. Maybe it'll be the washroom. Okay, but generally speaking, it's not a community that identifies with North American norms of how we socialize emotions. So you have to really work in a very different way. They don't even want to come to counseling. Counseling is a bad thing. So you have to really do the work to make them understand the significance of counseling. And counseling is done all the time in high context cultures, because that's the role of elders, and we do it in a very different way.
What do you mean when you say high context cultures?
We are much more traditional. So, for example, you were asking example of a cultural, in the adaptation, adjustment, and integration process, the 3 steps. My mother-in-law used to tell me, they'd been living here for a very long time, that, you're going to have somebody tell you off, because I used to stand up every time an older person walked in, open the doors for them. And she said, one of these days, the same old lady is going to tell you to go away. And that, what do you think, I can't do it? Because it was a clear clash of high context, which are traditional. We treat our elders in a very different way. And over here, it's much more individual. I can do it. Whereas I wouldn't sit till somebody older, one day older, sat down.
You see, this is why we need to know about ourselves.
Yeah.
We need to know how do we interact with people who are different from us. And also because we are a professional people, we get to know the secrets and the working of individuals. That's very privileged.
Yes.
And how do we keep our role in such a way that it will not offend and also would be ethical? And I think that is, I taught all the little kids, wherever, you got to do the right thing ethically. Now, for example, if somebody, I always ask my, talk to the clients like this, like everything is confidential. And if you see me in the mall or something, and we could just say hello and acknowledge that I know each other, and this is not the time to talk, as you mentioned. And one time the little fellow saw me so excited, and they say, Mommy, Daddy, all this about meet my counselor. And what do you do, right? So that means that you have to go along with the person he or she feels comfortable by saying that, but very graciously and say, nice meeting you, no chats.
Yes.
Because you see what happened, they're so tempted, right? All of a sudden they don't have to get an appointment, and they could see you and say, oh, you know what we've done? And that kind of blurred the boundary. And I think the most important thing is that we have to be responsible to keep confidentiality, and we have to do whatever we can to be who we are. We are helpers. We are not going to be restricted with a white coat. But then there are ways that we have to learn how to deal with ourselves and how to relate to other people. And that's very, be who you are, but remember, do the right thing. And I just